Now, as promised in studio, Metro Councilwoman Jenn Racca. Good morning, Jen. How's your morning doing?
Oh, it's great.
Let's get you a little bit of our.
All right, there we go.
Yeah. Hey, good night last night.
It was a wild night.
Yeah.
Council meeting Wednesdays, you know.
Yeah, I know. Look, I'm putting together the show. We're like a couple days out from early voting to start. I got a comedian coming on next hour. I'm all set. I know what my show's going to be. I go coach a little girls basketball last night. We get a win. Come home and see that everything exploded.
Just unraveled.
Yeah. So the chief went off. I mean, he just went off. Yeah. You got called out by name. Aaron Moak got called out by name. Unless there's another Moak out there. You got first and last name. He just got the last name.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Now, there were things that led up to this.
Absolutely.
As the night unfolded, there were things that led up to this. One of the reasons that you got called out personally was because you stood up to talk about, and correct me if I'm wrong, you said that other members of the Metro Council knew about the Brave Cave months ago, correct?
So we knew about bad actors, and that's really all I can say because this all started with an executive session months ago.
Okay.
And I can't say what happened in executive session. We're bound, and as a lawyer, I can't speak on that. Mm-hmm. And I respect the confines of executive session. There may be some other council members that do not. But outside of that executive session, we had discussions. This is bad. What is happening right now, what we just saw in a settlement is bad. And then other folks let us know there was more coming down the pipeline. Well, what more other than the Brave Cave?
Right.
Because it's the same set of bad actors.
I don't want to harp on this too much, but was the term Brave Cave used prior to it? Like, when you learned about bad actors, did you learn about actors or places?
So,
and look, I realize I'm asking about things that were behind closed doors.
We're tiptoeing on a line here.
Yeah.
So
okay.
I'm just going to leave it at that.
That's fine.
Other folks can expound, but I don't feel comfortable.
No. I have to ask. You don't have to answer. It's just I understand.
But all 11 stood with me, except for Shauna. But I think Shauna was just distracted at the moment. Mm-hmm. And I'm not quite.
Wait, what?
Yeah. I'm sorry. I heard her lean over and say, "Why are we standing?" or something. What is she talking about? But all 10 stood with me that were listening and aware of what we were talking about. So, and I wanted everyone to stand up and say, we had a stream of folks come in and say, what is the Metro Council doing about this?
Let's talk about that for just a second. And we are going to get to the chief, calling you out specifically.
Sure.
But what can the Metro Council do? This is one of the things I've always respected about you is you know the role. Yeah. You know what the lane is to stay in. So what can 100%. The Metro Council do?
So we approve funding. The police chief is nowhere within our scope of hiring, firing. The police officers are nowhere within our scope. It is solely the administration's job, the mayor's job. And so when folks are coming to us saying, what are you going to do? Why didn't you do anything? Well, if you've been watching, we've been doing stuff for the past 3 years that are within our scope.
Right.
If I had powers to exercise things, I would do things a lot differently than they're happening right now. But we've done everything that we possibly can. But there's some other what do you guys want us to do? I guess is my question. And it's sort of my question last night.
Yeah. When the chief says, y'all are sitting here trying to deal off these people's emotions, and some of y'all are the problem, Jenn Racca. You sit there, defund the police department budget from a legal standpoint. So I don't want to get those words twisted.
No, they're not twisted. And let me just start by saying my fellow council members and I have done everything to increase their budget, to increase their pay, to make sure that the guys and gals that go out every day and risk their lives are funded. Mm-hmm. What we did, he went on a tangent about people calling his kids ugly names, which is awful. That's awful.
Yeah.
People calling him ugly names. He used a nasty derogatory term. He said it all in an open meeting. Okay? And then he talked about us defunding his legal stuff. Well, let me tell you what that boils down to. The police chief used his lawyers to fight police officers that hurt his feelings while he was in his position. We have Sia Creel, where we spent over $100,000 in legal fees because he wore a badge to a blogger's video, okay, and his gun. So $100,000+. Okay.
Okay.
Then the police chief comes to us and asks us to settle that, and we give Sire Creel $90,000 in a settlement.
Okay.
Yet we have folks that are hauling people to the Brave Cave and doing cavity searches on folks, allegedly, and they remain on the force. They're still there. And we knew these people were doing things. We knew these people were in these positions, in fact, promoted to special teams, and they remain on the force. So the legal funding that he's talking about that we cut for people that hurt his feelings and said ugly things about him, and then he's saying that he can't punish bad actors. Sir, you've had every opportunity to punish every bad actor that you've needed to. Not to mention, you have parish attorneys lined up. You have your own parish attorney, Dealey Morris, that sits there that you don't utilize. So tell me, what more legal fees do you need? How many more taxpayer dollars do you need? And I'm sorry that people hurt your feelings, but that's the role we're in.
What was going through your head as this was evolving?
I could not believe that this was actually happening. People call and ask us for help. They come to the podium and blame us. And when we say this is happening, and Aaron Moak tried to state it, but he got attacked by all sorts of folks in the audience. He had people yelling at him. He tried to say the person that is managing these folks, he's sitting right here. And maybe he should take a step back while the investigation continues. And then that's when things just got crazy. It just got insane. Not to mention, this police chief has preached de-escalation. Yes. We've heard it so many times. And then that's what's going to happen. And that's what they're training officers. And that is just his call to arms and what he's been doing that's been positive. The mayor sat behind the police chief, moving her hand down, telling him to calm down. He said no. He disrespected her, and he lit into all of us. Mm-hmm. And I got tough skin. I can take it. I can take his tangent, his deflecting from the issues that are currently at hand. But the nature of his disrespect illuminated what everyone has been telling us, what people have been shouting, what his police officers have said happens in closed-door meetings. We saw it last night. And we saw it in an open forum. Imagine what it looks like behind closed doors.
Metro Councilwoman Jenn Racca is with us for another couple minutes. We're going to run long. I told you till 7:15, but if we can keep you for 2-3 minutes
Sure.
on top of that.
Absolutely.
Is it over?
No, it's not over. And let me tell you, so I've seen some internet comments that say, oh, man, we need more Brave Caves. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you what's happened in the 19th JDC. These people that are accused of hardened crimes that would make you weep and lock your doors and stay inside, they get now, because of what's going on, how these officers acted, they get a get out of jail free card.
Yes.
They walk. They walk with their drugs. They walk with their firearms. They walk with their attempted murders or their murders. They walk. They're scot-free and back on our streets because we had bad actors that no one did anything about. And that is the most disturbing thing that everyone should be angry about. These folks, because we did nothing, and by we, you know who I mean, nothing was done. We allowed these people to stay in these capacities, in these roles as police officers. We allowed our community to be victimized by folks that had issues, and we were aware. Is this sounding familiar? We were aware that they had issues, but they stayed on with the department because who their families were. Does that sound familiar? Does that sound like a $4 million judgment? Does that sound like a $4 million settlement?
So I brought this up a couple weeks. I think it was in our Legally Served segment. I assume you're alluding to Blaine's alimony.
Yes. Does that sound like taxpayer dollars?
No, 100%. And for those that are new to Baton Rouge, because we remember this happened 7 years ago, Blaine Salamone was the one who shot Alton Sterling. Blaine Salamone came from a police family. and now we're seeing someone coming from a police family who's the alleged bad actor in this
But
Brave Cave thing.
let me help.
So
and expound.
I made the same correlation, Jen.
So Blaine Salamone had letters in his record and evaluation saying he should never be a police officer. He also had letters in his records from supervisors that said, this guy's out of control. We've got to do something about this. Yeah. And he stayed.
Yeah.
So
not only stayed on the same beat.
So I am talking about we are repeating history right now.
Yeah.
We are doing the exact same thing, but different rules are applying. Different rule. And the whole posture of this administration is we're going to do better. What is better? And when? Is that prosecuting police officers that hurt your feelings? And I don't know these police officers that were tied up. There were allegations that I was having backdoor meetings with them. Aaron Moak was having backdoor meetings with them. Please expound on that and what kind of statement that is to Aaron Moak. Don't get me started on that. It was ugly and it was intentional.
Okay.
And it was homophobic and we all heard it. But we're having backdoor meetings. We don't know who these people are. The other comment, which is absolutely absurd, is they have 6 council members in their pocket. Okay, so what are you talking about? What 6 council members does who have in their pocket? And newsflash, it takes 7 to vote on something. So what does 6 do you? Nothing. Absolutely nothing. So just the deflection, the paranoia, the scapegoating, the gaslighting, all the words that you want to use, they happened last night as soon as he went in front of that microphone.
How much of what happened last night happened because he's already on his way out?
So I don't know. But, we're all sitting here talking about, the police chief's not here. He was there last night.
Right.
And he hasn't left yet. And I called for his resignation last night. Well,
didn't he already do that?
He's still there. He's still cooperating with an investigation for FBI. We're still here having this conversation. And let's talk about some police conduct. BRPD Policy General Order 112, Discipline. Number 1, command of temper. All members shall exercise emotional control while in the performance of their duties. No member while on duty or while acting in official capacity off duty shall use rude or derogatory language, racist terminology, or attempt to deride, offend, or insult anyone. Number 2, conduct unbecoming an officer. Every member of the department, whether on or off duty in an official or unofficial capacity, must conduct himself at all times in such a manner as to set a good example for all others with whom he may come in contact with. He shall in no way, through actions or neglect, bring dishonor or disgrace upon himself or the police department. So let me tell you, go back and watch that meeting. Mm-hmm. See how he conducted himself, or just watch the clippets. See how he conducted himself and say his actions don't warrant an internal investigation on his conduct while he's still there. And I'm very curious to know if this morning, when business begins, is he still in his capacity? Because if he does, that makes me question any respect that I have remaining for the administration.
What does the nature of his pending departure or his impending departure, that doesn't matter? It's your take is gone today.
Why are we allowing him to remain in a capacity where he doesn't take orders from the mayor? He doesn't listen to her. He's willing to go. Why are we subjecting the public and our police officers that are still on our force to that? Why are we doing it? He's obviously got some issues with anger management, potentially some and you know what? So do I, but I don't carry a badge and a gun. The other piece is maybe it's some PTSD from being on the force. Maybe there's some mental health evaluations. Maybe he can get some help. I really hope he does, because he has a lot of harbored anger about what folks have done to him and his children. And I get it. Being in a public role, you get that.
And the nature of the way he got this gig, I'll take up for him a little bit. I will take up for him a little bit. The nature of the way he got the gig, the number of people who have been aligned against him from day one. Now, everything, I'm not disputing anything you said along the way, but there are layers, to be sure. But you're right. I would not be in the best place mentally either.
No, and I get it. Like, there are days like this. This is hard. This is not it's not easy to sit in front of such a diverse community and sit here and you have some folks that are very, very loud and some folks that only choose to be loud on the internet when it suits them. And you look at that meeting last night and you don't see anybody storming in there to support the position that there are things that are wrong in our police department and the mayor and the chief need to do something about it. We had everybody ready to storm in and point their fingers at the council for a role that the plan of government clearly does not define to us. Clearly.
And that's, to me, that is one of the biggest parts about the whole thing. Like, y'all are not in charge of discipline. Y'all are not in charge of hiring and firing. And if you were, our government would be out of kilter. That would be way too much power in one council's hands. So, we...
You too.
We're going to break. Sorry. Boss comes in every once in a while. We're going to pick up this conversation early next week, to be sure.
For sure.
Let everybody cool down. The call is out there. All parties involved. If you were a part of this, then let's hear from you. In the meanwhile, I can't tell you how much I appreciate you.
Thank you for having
getting
me.
on. No, get on down here. Like, the door's always open. The door is always open. But to rebound the following morning and be like, let's talk.
Let's continue.
Absolutely.
Let's continue it.
We will. She is Metro Councilwoman Jenn Racca. I can't tell you how much I appreciate the time. Thank you so much.